Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I just wanted to do a quick update on the car, but mostly talk about my exhaust setup. I've been getting a lot of messages on my Instagram and TikTok and just comments on YouTube, and I just wanted to help everybody out with either choosing your exhaust for the G80 or just kind of, talking about the pros and cons of my exhaust. Now, what I'm running right now is the IRL Modular Midpipe with the V2 Axleback and the V2 Valve Controller, which is the plug and play. I think they have a different remote out now for it, but I have the original V2 remote and OEM downpipes. Now, I do have the IRL titanium front mount intakes, but that's not going to play a huge factor in the exhaust sound. With the actual exhaust, when I was researching, just trying to find one of my opinion of the best sounding exhaust, at first, the first name that come to mind was Valvetronic or Dynan or just Miltech or just there's so many different companies out there. But as soon as I found a video on YouTube of the IRL Modular Midpipe, I started looking for people that had it. And at the time, it was another pool, which I'm sure if you've watched my channel and follow me, you probably follow him. And he had I think it was the V2 catback, which included the non-resonated midpipe and their axleback with their 400 cell downpipes. Now, at the time I was like, man, that is the best sounding setup I've heard. So I did a lot of research on it, reached out to IRL, reached out to Magic, and he done, an amazing job of explaining everything to me and the differences. So it came down to, okay, should I just do the midpipe, which is a very common thing to do. People start out with sometimes just a valve controller or an actual midpipe. And I sat on it for probably a month or so and just trying to decide what I wanted to do. I hated the way the rear section of the car looked with the rear axleback looking like a diaper, as everyone would say. It is my fun car. I don't want it to be super quiet, but I didn't want it to be obnoxious. Now, the modular midpipe itself is not as loud as a normal non-resonated midpipe. However, the tone is a lot different. It's deeper, and it's got its own, I don't know how to say it, it's got its own special tone to it. It's better flow. It's a megaphone design instead of just the normal, I want to say it's the normal Y design. And overall, the performance gains that you get with, all of the, Magic has actually posted this, dyno sessions and stuff like that. The actual gains you get from this midpipe, I couldn't say no to. So I was like, all right, I'm definitely getting that. And now I need to decide on Axleback. Well, after talking to IRL on Instagram and Magic and, a few other people that I reached out to, another pool and all that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go full send and get the Axleback as well. Because I knew I really, really liked the way another pool's M3 sounded in his videos. So I did that, and when I first put it on, I was absolutely surprised. I mean, how deep it is in person, how, the actual tone of the car is completely changed. Its first startup, I was very, very excited. Now, at the time, that was end of summer, early fall. After a few months of having it, I think my wife and daughter rode with me one time. It was definitely loud for them in the back. And the more and more I drove it, the more I realized this car now has drone. Now, immediately when I started noticing it, just because with the windows down, you don't notice it as much. But when I started noticing that, I reached out to Magic, and, he definitely explained like we had mentioned, possible drone, and that's fair. However, after that, I started looking up just in general drone with these G80s. And it seems like if you change out the rear section of the car, definitely gonna get drone. The more and more I drove it, the more I realized that it's really not that loud It's just the fact that it's droning. Now, I don't think I would, I'm not necessarily regret getting this setup. However, it's completely different than most setups. I get a lot of compliments on this car. People know that these cars don't sound the best. So the fact that you're getting compliments on how it sounds kind of proves like how good IRL did with this exhaust. And when it started getting colder outside, and I would, typically drive with the windows up, and, I'm like, okay, this car is definitely droning now. I knew it was a possibility, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Somewhat after that, he released the modular catback, which is it still has the modular catback or midpipe, but it's designed a little bit differently because it flows. It's pretty much a single all the way back into a single valve that's pretty much a single exit exhaust with quad tips. Now, having the single valve apparently helps a lot with the startups, being, cold starts, being really loud, and in drone in general. There's not a whole lot of customer feedback on that setup yet, so I'm kind of waiting to switch if I end up doing that. But, you compare this setup compared to that, this is definitely going to be a little louder and have more drone. So there are some videos out now with the modular catback. Everyone's got their own opinion. Personally, I like this setup more. However, I haven't heard the modular catback in person. Now, I do get a lot of messages on my Instagram about, hey, I bought this setup, it drones. I'm like, well, even in the description of the modular midpipe, it does say they recommend you pair up with an Axleback or the OEM Axleback. Now, at the time, I don't think that was part of the description when I bought it, but obviously over time, more people getting it, they realized that people were complaining about it. However, I think Magic did an amazing job with the design and just overall, performance of this exhaust. It sounds the best, has the deepest tone. There's not a lot of rasp, which is kind of really hard to get rid of on these cars. But overall, I'm really, really happy with this exhaust. Now, yes, I do have a discount code, for this exhaust. If you want to use it, it's Meticulous Garage. You can save 5%. I know that's not much, but it definitely helps. But, I'm not trying to just sell you on it just because I have a discount code. I had this exhaust before that, and I'm just trying to tell you straight up, I think this is the best sounding S58 OEM downpipe car there is. Overall, I think if I had to change it, I would probably start out with the midpipe just to see, because I have still yet to hear the modular midpipe in person, just that alone. So maybe I would start out with that, and that's something I would recommend you doing. Or maybe even just a valve controller. I feel like a valve controller is not going to be enough, in my opinion. But maybe start out with the modular midpipe and a valve controller. And if you think it's not enough, maybe either switch up to what I have, if you don't mind some drone, or sell the midpipe and then buy the modular catback. Now, the modular catback is offered in a 4-inch and a 3.5-inch. Now, after multiple testing, Magic has told me pretty much anything after 3.5-inch is not much gains. Yes, the 4-inch may be louder and it may sound a little bit better to some people, but flow-wise and overall gains, performance-wise, you're not really getting any. So in my head, if I can't deal with the drone, which I'm gonna definitely drive it more this spring and summer, and if I just can't deal with it, yeah, maybe I'll change up to the modular catback. But I've only had it on here 4 or 5 months. I don't drive the car that much. Now, if my wife and daughter start riding with me more, yeah, I'll probably change it just so they don't have to deal with the drone in the car. It's not that big of a deal. But overall, I think this is one of the best, companies you can work with an exhaust. You're not going to have the rasp. You're not going to have just the normal sounding, you know, tinny sound from a titanium exhaust. I just think it's one of the best choices when it comes to the S58. Now, you know, there's definitely a lot of options, and it can get confusing because they offer multiple different mid pipes and just configurations. So if you have any questions, you can, you know, comment on here. You can send me a Instagram message at Meticulous Garage, or even on TikTok. I'm more than welcome to answer any of those questions, because at the time, before I started reaching out to Magic and IRL, you know, I tried to find real world customers, and it wasn't many. There were a couple that had a mid pipe, but it was the original non-resonated or resonated mid pipe. But, you know, that's one reason I wanted to make this channel, is because in my research over the months and months of trying to figure out what I wanted, there just wasn't much information out there. So that's one thing that I feel like I have helped some people with, because they just had no clue, and sometimes the naming and multiple different variations of it kind of gets confusing. So I'm hoping that what I've explained today helps. And if it hasn't, you can easily reach out to me, and I'm more than glad to answer that question for you. But yeah, I mean, if this is your daily driver and you're like, hey, I want to make this car sound better, but I don't want a lot of drone, I would either recommend the modular mid pipe, or just a non-resonated mid pipe if you're planning to stay OEM downpipes. Or if you're like me, where this is your fun car, this is your second car, you know, something to drive on the weekends or something, or to shows or whatnot, and you don't mind some drone, I would get my setup, because I think it's one of the best sounding ones there is. But if you want a full system, you want it to be louder than a mid pipe, and you want a full system, replace the Axleback as well, because you don't like the way it looks, I would recommend buying the modular catback. I think right now they're offering the 4-inch, the 3.5-inch coming later, if I'm not mistaken. And they do offer it in stainless and titanium, but me personally, I think the stainless sounds better. But yeah, I mean, if you want the full system, not much drone, I can't say that it doesn't have that, because I haven't tested it personally, but there's a few other, a few customers that saying none. So if you want that, that's what I would go for, but it won't be as, I guess, deep sounding as mine. The tone will be a little bit different, and most of the flow will come out of one side of the two, just one side of the tips, not the other. So if that bothers you, maybe you don't get that. Obviously one side's going to get a little dirtier than the other, but yeah, I mean, that's the choices that you have, and I hope this has helped. I'm going to end up doing a cold start at the end of this video, just to show you. I'm trying to mess with my mic setup and trying to get the best real world sound. Obviously I'm in a garage. It's not going to be, what you hear maybe if you park your car outside or something. So it might have some echoing, but I try my best to provide the best quality videos that I can, and just try to help people out, because I know personally I spent months, going back and forth. What should I get? What should I get? And I hope this helps. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, this is a quick update on the car. I am really, really happy with the way everything's turning out. Added some spacers front and rear. Still going to play with the fitment a little bit. If you're looking into front mounts, I highly recommend the IRL titanium. This is the raw finish. I chose the black filters. You can't really see them. I could have got red, but I just didn't. I wanted to hide it. But overall, very, very clean. All the welds are really, really nice. I will say, I didn't do this myself. However, the shop said it was a pain to install. So if you're gonna do it yourself, you need a lot of patience, because it's a very, very tight fitment. It's one of the biggest intake systems out there for this car, for the front mounts. But yeah, a few other things coming for the car. Got some caps that I'll be installing at some point. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that. Strut bar, I did install one. I wasn't happy with it, sent that back. So that's in the works. That will probably be one of my next videos. Is going to be a strut bar with the caps, and then the engine bay will be done. But overall, everything's looking great. Front fitment's looking pretty good. Rear fitment may need to be dialed in a little bit more. We'll see what's to come with that. But overall, I am really, really happy with this car. Who knows? Maybe this summer we'll dive into getting it tuned. But overall, I'm just really, really happy how the car sits at the moment. I'm looking, you know, if anyone knows me, I've really like a nice and clean setup, and I think I've pretty much made that happen with this car. So, but if you have any more questions about my exhaust or the intakes or just anything that I've added to the car, whether it be the wheels, tires, suspension upgrades, don't be afraid to send me a message. I'm more than willing to answer that for you, or, you know, provide anything that you need. So, but we'll see you next time.